Hello, team, and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pierce. This is Ukraine War news update for the 20th of August 2023, the first part thereof. Sorry it's a little bit late. It turns out that after you've had a holiday, and especially when you've got something like MS, you need a holiday from being on a holiday. My body is shot through and I could sleep for a week. Anyway, I will do two videos for my news piece, but my second one might be delayed by an hour and a half due to the World Cup football, Women's World Cup football final taking place pretty much now. So I'm going to have to take a break to watch that because England are in it, obs. And then I'll get back to you after that. So apologies, sorry, not sorry. Let's go to where we usually start. The Ukrainian general staff figures for the Russian losses for the day before. All the usual caveats apply. I will do a caveat sheet to go with this soon. Just not today. 460 KIA for the Russian losses there in personnel, 6 tanks and 11 APVs. That's all kind of where it's been, give or take, for the last few months. There are spikes up, spikes down. The consistent loss of tanks and APVs will at some point really bite. I keep saying that. I don't know. Possibly it's biting now. The next stat, though, I mean, goodness, 33 artillery systems and 3 multiple launch rocket systems lost yesterday. Even if that's 50% of those are not true, if they've got the stats 50% wrong, that's still a problem, right? If you're losing 17 of them a day, 33 is just phenomenal. Really, really bad news for the Russians there, and we just, as I keep saying, we keep hearing that the Russians are not happy with their counter battery fire, and they are suffering in terms of being able to support their defense with artillery. 3 anti-aircraft warfare systems is a huge total as well. As you can see from the actual total for the whole war, that is running at less than 1 a day. We're into day 500 and whatever it is, so it's less than 1 a day. 3 lost yesterday. I don't know what systems they were. I haven't seen any totals from Andrew Perpetua actually the last 24 hours or so. So it'll be interesting to see if they are high value targets or not. 22 drones, that'd be from the night before predominantly, not last night. 15 vehicles and fuel tanks taken out. That will hurt their logistics capability. And 5 pieces of special equipment. They will be intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, electronic warfare, all that kind of stuff. So another difficult day for the for the Russians, sorry, particularly in terms, as ever, in terms of artillery and indeed anti-aircraft warfare systems too. I just checked, actually, I did miss this one yesterday from Andrew Perpetua, so this isn't one from the 20th, but this is from yesterday. Slightly more losses for the Russians and the Ukrainians, so shifting back in favor of the Ukrainians there. It's right across the spectrum of equipment here. So artillery, tanks, IFVs, trucks, air defense. Estrela 10 has been damaged, and surveillance as well. Whereas the Ukrainians have lost a fair bit of artillery there. M777 HS Crab Susanna as well. That's a bit of a loss, and a radar system will be quite lost for the Ukrainians. A couple of older tanks and some vehicles there. So Russians losing a lot, mainly D20 piece of artillery there. It'd be nice for them to lose higher value ones. However, you wonder what they've got left as they keep getting these artillery systems to all pieces taken out. Anyway, that's what Andrew Perpetua's counted up. He's a mapper, and he counts these up in on a daily basis, adding to his database as to what has been lost from each side. This is just a bit of footage to show some 5 Russians being captured, and they talk about bad treatment by their own command, as well as a lack of logistics and water. So it's not just about, they are losing a lot to POWs at the moment. I've seen a huge amount of footage suggesting that the Ukrainians have taken a lot of Russian POWs. That was then confirmed as well yesterday by I think the Ukrainian MOD, or the spokesperson for the defense. And this again builds up the picture that the Russians' logistics have been hit. I mean, having a lack of water. Did we then go back to these stats and seeing vehicles and fuel tanks being hit? We know that ammo dumps are routinely taken out, logistics hubs, all this kind of stuff leads towards the the conclusion that the Russians are in trouble logistically speaking. Okay, Ukraine forces destroyed 10 boats employed by the Russian deep reconnaissance groups on August the 18th. So that's just 10 boats in one day alone, it appears. I almost reported this yesterday, but I couldn't work out from the reports whether it was 10 boats just in total. We've destroyed 10 boats over, I don't know, an amount of time, or whether it's in one day. I was like, oh, I won't report it because it's not that impressive if it's not in one day. And then okay, it appears that wasn't one day. These boats carrying 40 Russian servicemen and military equipment, maneuvering between islands, attempted to infiltrate strategic areas, according to the press head of the Operational Command South. So Humenyuk there saying that. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but they have claimed to have taken out quite a number of boats in the Dnipro River area. Right. Russia has attacked Sumy with 248 blasts in a single day. So Sumy in the north of Ukraine is getting shelled very heavily. So where they are lacking artillery, you wonder whether it's worth them taking artillery down from those southern Russian border areas and putting them on the front line, because they still seem to be hammering the Ukrainians in the north of the country. Russian forces launched 26 attacks at communities along the Sumy border on August the 19th, causing 248 explosions, damaging private homes, according to Sumy military administration. And this is me being a bit juvenile here. Sorry if you don't like really bad swear words. Okay, so the thing to report here is Russia on fire. Warehouses belonging to e-commerce retailer Ozon caught fire in Podolsk. Firefighters from across the Moscow region were dispatched, but had problems with water supply to fight the fire, so helicopters were also called in. And this is from the news agency Shot, right? And I was just like, as this spans across and you see a helicopter coming along to drop off the water, and it cuts to building here. Okay, fair enough, well done. There is a problem here for the Russians. And then just here, I just can't help. I saw this and thought the Shot news agency watermark is really offensive to me here. I won't say anything else, but I was just like, seriously, come on, guys, I'm not that bad. Anyway, childish. Right, moving on to distance strikes and whatnot. I still find that amusing. E-Link News says if the Russians admit an aircraft was damaged, it's likely multiple aircraft were at least damaged, possibly destroyed. So this was the Russian airbase that was hit by a drone or drones, don't really know, but the report is a single drone. And someone saying that actually when the Russians admit that an airplane has been damaged, then it's probably more than one, right? This was the case in the Saki Air Base last year in Crimea, when over half a dozen or so Su-24s were destroyed or damaged. So admitting that an aircraft is damaged possibly means more, and that is, as a result of the drone strike that saw smoke rising like this. Okay. Trentelenko then has just said, well, the first reports are always wrong. There is more good news here than possibly two backfired bombers to Tu-22M3 detonating under this reported airfield drone strike. This is a Russian missile tech thread. Okay, so he said, well, some media sources are claiming that either Tu-22M3 or a fuel depot were hit, the smoke rising, or maybe multiple bombers. The smoke rising from here is the wrong color for that. Burning jet fuel is black. The smoke rising from the VK Saltsy military airfield isn't black. So what's burning? The answer is a bunch of Ds. These are KH-22 or X-22 anti-ship cruise missiles used in a Cold War backfire bomber to hunt US Navy carriers. Their warheads use a plastic explosive known as RDX. The smoke over Saltsy military airfield is consistent with burning RDX. These are some of the cruise missiles that are very difficult, the anti-ship missiles, very difficult to shoot down, and they do quite a lot of damage to, for example, places like Odessa at the moment. While my Google foo is weak, says Trentelenko, it is good enough to get a map of Saltsy military airfield. There are dozens of KH-22 and KH-22 size cylinders racked in the open to the left of the close-up image below, a sitting duck target. Okay, so he obviously has more idea of what things are than I do, but the assumption is that those are just massive racks of cruise missile of cruise missiles. And he says the KH-22 are usually stored unfueled because it has the same hypergolic propellant as the S-200's 5V-28 surface-to-air missiles. Propellant, storable hypergolic fuel, Tonka TG-02 Aka R Stoff, 50% triethylene, I didn't pronounce that correctly, and 50% xylidine, oxidizer AK-20K Aka red fuming nitric acid, RFNA. Okay. The TG-02 AK-20K propellant mixture burns black as coal, just like jet fuel. And since there were no reported evacuation orders at Saltsea, which is an absolute requirement for a TG-02 AK-20K fire, because no one is going to survive breathing unfiltered RFNA particulates. Unfueled KH-22 missiles were destroyed in this drone strike at Saltsea military airfield. So this is his speculation, of course. It might not definitely be true, but he knows a bit about this stuff. Given a range of more than 650 kilometers from the border with Ukraine for this strike, we are seeing a new generation of precise AFU drone munitions arriving. So he's suggesting that a bunch of unfueled KH-22 cruise missiles, anti-ship missiles, were blown up in this. Who knows how many? And is that more problematic than blowing up the bombers? I don't know how many bombers they have versus how many KH-22 cruise missiles they have, and exactly what was taken out. But an interesting analysis there from Tremtelenko. Okay, last night there were 3 drones were said to have attacked a military unit in Rostov, which is an oblast just over the border from Ukraine to the east. Russia again says all 3 never eat shredded wheat, naughty elephants squirt water, etc., etc. Russia again says all 3 drones were suppressed by electronic warfare. 2 fell on the territory of a military unit in Kamensk, the other 1 kilometer north of Novoshakhtinsk. Whether the 2 falling on the military unit is actually those drones successfully getting there, I don't know. Again, no reports here. It says the Ukrainians tried to attack the Rostov region with 3 drones, but were reportedly all downed. So yeah, that's a general report there. Now, Kursk railway station was also hit, but I'm a bit unsure about this. So this is zoomed in. Basically, it was a really insignificant fire on the roof of the Kursk railway station. Apparently, 5 people were injured, falling glass and whatnot. But I don't. Yeah, just one small drone hitting the roof of a railway station. I don't know what that shows. Whether that was a useful target, whether that was a false flag, etc., etc. Nonetheless, that's the claim. Kursk railway station, again in Russia, and it could be this kind of psyops thing to just make a statement to Russian people that, hey, you're at war, and this is a ramification. A precise Ukrainian JDAM strike targeting a building occupied by Russian forces in Donetsk city. We are seeing more and more JDAMs being utilized, and I think that's good news for the Ukrainians. They are significant. They have much more explosive capacity than some of the other munitions that they've been using, and that's really good. And obviously, they have pretty good range too. So JDAMs are proving to be more and more effective as far as I can work out from open source intelligence. Right, going back to this strike on Chernihiv yesterday. Now, okay, there's a claim here. Russia is a terrorist state repeating what it did for years in Syria, using indiscriminate weapons to target the center of urban areas. So far, reportedly 7 dead, including 6-year-old, and 144 wounded, including 15 children, all in the center of Chernihiv in Ukraine. This was a terrible hit. However, so you can look at plenty of footage, and I showed you the footage of the missiles skidding along the center of Chernihiv and taking out the building. Now, and it's terrible because this is a civilian area. However, there are claims that, and they seem pretty bona fide claims, that there was a drone conference taking place in the drama theatre. And it was kind of advertised. It was possibly a commercial drone. I don't know too much about this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it could have been a commercial drone conference taking place. And that was what was targeted. And it was in the middle of Chernihiv, surrounded by, people shopping and people going about their daily business. And therefore, lots of Civilians were affected, died, wounded, including children. So the question is, was that a sensible? Chernihiv is in the north of Ukraine. It's easily targeted, as you can see, by Russia. Was that a sensible place to advertise a drone conference? Is that a bona fide military target, a drone conference? Does it have military aspects? I don't know enough to be able to comment. Someone like Kenneth Gregg was pretty angry about this, and I don't know where I sit on this one. I try and be as fair and objective as possible, even though I'm hugely pro-Ukrainian. So he says information has now emerged about the Russian missile attack in Chernihiv, and it does not make for pretty reading. How can anyone be so stupid as to organise a drone exhibition a few miles from the border with Russia? Not to mention bringing together funders, developers, and military personnel in one place and advertising the event with time, place, and other information. I've greatly admired Maria Belinska for her hard work, but now her organisation must take partial responsibility for the disaster. Blunders like this must not happen, especially when we have access to Zoom and Teams. And then he goes on to talk about the front lines. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of that is true, like how much of that is accurate, uh, and what that says about the strike from Russia, and whether that was, if that's a genuine military target, then those civilian casualties are kind of defensible within the remit or within the framework of international law, as far as I would know, regarding um, Geneva Convention and military targets and whatnot. So, uh, but it's whether what kind of Greg says there is correct, and so on and so forth. Lots of caveats apply to that too. But yeah, it's a terrible strike, as in it caused an awful lot of destruction and death and casualties. But if there was a genuine conference going on there, then I mean that's a pretty stupid place to have it. Would be my agreement with Kenneth Gregg there. Right, moving on to other bits and pieces. So this is satellite imagery of the section of the enemy's, so the Russian second layer of defense that is being engaged by the armed forces of Ukraine in the vicinity of Verbova. So Verbova is that town just to the east of Robotna. So Robotna is just here. Then you've got Verbova there. You've got the front line. Sorry, you've got the first line of trenches, the major trenches that the Ukrainians have taken control of. That actually stretches a bit further to the west as well there, I think, does it? But anyway, they've taken control of some of this first line of trenches, and it moves down into Verbove, and this is where they're sort of moving towards. Anyway, the conversation here is the amount of troops needed to effectively man this trench is staggering. They need a company plus per every 800 to 1,000 meters. That's infantry and tanks, some APCs, artillery support, HQ, etc. That area is 20 to 30 kilometers of trenches in that line, just in this one place. So to the point of me mentioning this is that while it's difficult for the Ukrainians to overcome these, breach these obstacles, to properly man all these obstacles, and this is just one place on the front line, hundreds of kilometers, and if you think about the whole front line, 1,000 kilometers plus long, you need some serious numbers of troops to properly man those defenses. And then if you're talking about one line, two lines, three lines, four lines, assuming not all of those troops are going to get back to defend the next line and the next line, you're going to need other troops, reserves, etc., etc. Just the numbers are staggering, and the Russians don't have those numbers. So while the Ukrainians might worry about the sheer number of trenches or sheer sort of depth and width of trenches, the kind of silver lining to that deep cloud is that the Russians need to man those trenches, and they can't do that to the numbers required. Anyway, I don't want to belabor slagging off Musk here, but his decision, why this is important to Ukraine again, he's got rid of all of the, or Twitter's got rid of all of the media from before 2014. Just like that. Now, some people are saying this could be a bug. Some people are saying it's on purpose. No one really knows. Is it still on Twitter servers, etc., etc.? But anything from before 2014 is a bit of a problem. And here, Tim White's saying So Musk's latest unannounced vandalism is to remove old media from Twitter, not stuff from 15 years old or 10 years. He arbitrarily chooses 2014, conveniently removing all photographic and video trace of Euromaidan revolution of dignity in Ukraine. I don't know. That's just coincidence. I don't know what's going on here, but other people are just not happy about this at all. By wiping out Twitter media before 2014, Musk is destroying some of the record of the revolution dignity of the Ukrainian people. Euromaidan started on the night of the 21st of November 2013. It became a manifestation of direct democracy, assuming world historical importance. And then other people saying that, blah, blah, blah. But it's also interesting, this applies to Syria. So this is appalling using a different account and in common with many other people. I followed the conflict in Syria very closely. My tweets linked to thousands of videos of Assad's war crimes. Many of these videos have been deleted by YouTube as well. And now Musk is deleting the links. Social media billionaires are erasing the historical record. This must be stopped. It cannot be tolerated. Same for Iran in 2009. Some pics and videos were graphic. I don't know whether Twitter actually had media ability to post media at that time in 2009. I don't know. Anyway, there's a lot of worry over this. I just thought I'd mention it. I don't want to get too involved in that slanging match again because I do it too often. But it's an open source intelligence relies on being able to look at data, and if you suddenly get rid of all the data from a certain point, yes, you're a private company, you can kind of do that, but how about people's access to that data? If you still want to see that, can you do that? Is there archiving of it, etc., etc.? Anyway, it's just a little bit of a worry of that. Anyway, thanks for watching. I am now going to go and watch some football. Yes, it's football. No, it's not soccer. Get over it. Or maybe I should get over it. So I will see you in a short while. Not too long. Don't worry. Thanks for your support. Take care. Toodle pips.